Well, then they're explained to the parent, and once there's understanding, again, the parent as a member of the decision-making team, decisions are made as to how to best accommodate what is ever diagnosed, for lack of a better word, or shown, illustrated, to assist the child in the classroom.
Okay, so parents are actually part of the team?
Absolutely. In fact, a meeting cannot take place other than, a consent, but without the parent. Equal member.
Okay, and do you still see? I mean, it used to be there was a stigma with special education that maybe parents wouldn't want that designation or classification because of some negative feeling about it. Is that still the case?
It's getting less and less, thankfully. There are some cultures that still have that stigma, interestingly enough. It's our job, and I say the school district's job, the child study team's job, to try to overcome any kind of stigmas or barriers that a parent may have and try to kind of lessen their fears. Oftentimes it's fear. Everyone wants their child to be like the neighbor's child, and sometimes it's hard to accept. But oftentimes, yes, parents are accepting of it.
Can a parent decline services? And this is something that, I've had some experience with, but can a parent actually, despite the fact that the evaluations come back and it appears the child has a disability, and it appears that the child requires some special services, can a parent say, no, thank you, while I appreciate your efforts, I don't believe my child requires these services and I don't want them classified?
Yes, and actually the school district can, and I don't want to get into the legal minutiae, leave that to you, but a school district also, if they disagree with the parent not choosing the services, they can, if they believe it's really in the child's best interest, a school district can try to, in a legal way, force the parent into the services.
I take it that's not a position the district wants to be put in, though.
That's correct.
Okay, so how often does that take place, that you have a conflict with respect to whether or not my child is classified?
Very rare.
Very, very rare. And so what are the more, you said you see a lot of special, specific learning disabilities, you see, what other kinds of disabilities are on the forefront or on the rise today?
No doubt nationally, but particularly here in New Jersey is obviously autism.
Autism. Yeah, you do read a lot about autism. Is it a problem that seems to be, well, first of all, let's define our terms. What is autism? Autism is it's a pervasive developmental disorder that is measured on a spectrum or continuum with a high and a low. And generally, autism focuses around communication and social deficiencies or disabilities. Give me some examples of how autism would affect a young child. Again, primarily through communication and social skills. And at times, a child they describe it as almost being in their own world. They may not have, they may not be able to focus, or they may not be able to, learn because of not being able to communicate, not being able to encode or decode words, read. You said it's a spectrum disorder. Yes. What does that mean? It means we call a high end of the spectrum and a low end of the spectrum. Obviously, someone on the high end would be greater functioning with their autism. They may be able to communicate. They may be They may be able to have good social skills. And on the opposite of that would be someone who, unfortunately, in some cases, can't speak. Does not have any social manners, positive pro-social manners. Yeah. So it's a tragedy, and New Jersey is seeing a increase. And we'll get to that. But for now, we have to go to a short break. Please stay with us for more about special education here on Outlook Monmouth.
Any questions?
No.
You know. We're not magicians, we can't read your mind.
We need your questions, each and every kind.
What are the side effects, doctor?
How many times have you done this before?
Questions are the answer.
Will this react with my other medicine?
Hey, what are all these tests even for?
You have the power to say what's on your mind.
We need your questions, each and every kind.
Every kind. Questions are the answer. Questions are the answer.
Turn it down. Lowering your thermostat just 1 degree can cool your heating cost by 3%. Answer the call.
This could be good. Hey, you.
Welcome back to Outlook Monmouth. I'm your host, Armin McCumber. If you're just joining us, we're talking about special education with Andrew Orefice, who serves as Superintendent of Schools for the Borough of Oceanport. Before accepting his position as Superintendent, Mr. Orefice served as Special Services Coordinator for the Borough of Oceanport. Mr. Orefice, before we went to the break, one of the things we were talking about was autism. And it appears, and again, I'm someone who does a fair amount of educational legal work, it appears, at least to me, and I think to a lot of people, that there are more children with autism these days than ever before. Does that appear to be the case to you?
Certainly.
Okay. And is that, you hear different theories about that. One is that, well, New Jersey does a better job of detecting the disorder and classifying these children than other states, or that in general the country is doing a better job of detecting it. Or you do hear about there's something in the environment, there's something systemic, something going on nationwide and even worldwide which is causing this increase. I mean, based on your experience, I know you're not a physician, but you certainly deal with parents of autistic children. You're certainly aware of the research that's going on out there. Can you hazard a guess as to what's causing this spike in autism?
Well, there's certainly no doubt that we see a spike in it. And I think all those factors you had mentioned or alluded to should be taken into account. Certainly there's been studies on both sides, so that it gets quite controversial at times. But New Jersey has done a great job in identifying autism. When
you say studies on both sides of what?
Both sides of issues, such as there are those people who suggest that autism is a result of vaccinations, childhood vaccinations. There are those who believe it's environmental, from toxins in the air, even cleaning products, things like that. So you hear both sides that would hold up studies. They certainly should all be taken into account for a fair focus as to the causes.
So as it stands right now, we don't know, meaning the educational community, the medical community, we have no idea what causes autism. Is that correct?
That's correct. Okay,
so we know it's increasing. I mean, and it's not just that we're doing a better job of detecting that. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right.
Okay, and are the cases more severe, or does it across the spectrum?
I think it's across the spectrum.
Okay. And I guess one of the things you're dealing with is parents come to you, and do they tend to have certain preconceived notions about what's causing autism? And do you find yourself reacting to that? For instance, I was watching television the other night, and Jenny McCarthy was talking about vaccinations, was crediting some sort of intestinal cure for autism. I mean, do you find, and I don't have anything to say about Jenny McCarthy or what she says, but I mean, do you find yourself dealing with these kinds of issues?
Oh, sure, and we're respectful of them. We hear all different sides of the issue. We hear different perspectives. We hear people who do different types of research with the internet now. There's many groups out there that are providing them with different informational sources. But we're respectful of them, and we have to do our due diligence to help the child. It's about the child.
And what kind of services, do these children require?
Usually therapies, particularly speech therapies. At times, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and even social skills therapies.
And, in terms of the expense, and I think that's one of the issues that what we're seeing. I mean, these services are expensive, are they not?